So then, what is one thing that you've learned about God that surprised you?
I'll say something I've been thinking about is that like God and Christ are very different in a strange way. You know, obviously Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but
You can
God
say
and
that again. Please say it for the people in the back of the church or people in the back of the stadium to hear it.
like God and Christ are very different in a very strange way. You know what I mean? Like in a weird way, like the way I see it, it's like God is neutral. I held it's like God is pretty neutral in what he does. He's like a judge. A judge isn't always, how do I say this? A judge acts based on everything, you know. But Christ, he acts always on principle of love. Always, always, always. God sometimes he can do some things that like we don't see as love. He can do some things that some can even say is cruel. Is why, the same God is what was used to massacre people in the Crusades and et cetera, et cetera. But then they can never use Christ as that same ship, like, oh, I'd kill you because Christ says no. Christ has never ever, it could never ever say that. Everything that you've used is mostly the Old Testament. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a beautiful distinction between who God is and who Christ is. Christ can be said in every way to have love throughout his whole life. In every way. The only time he has hated was when he saw injustice or when he saw defilement of, faith of what he believes in personally. Like when he went to the temple and he got so angry and what they've done to the temple.
Yeah,
That was a moment where I could say there was anger. There was
yeah,
almost a righteous hatred at the idea that they've defiled such a precious, sacred thing.
yeah, yeah. And
Christ
how
could
re
never.
yeah.
Oh, you can speak.
No, and I was gonna like say and how and he hates religion,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. Exactly
He
that.
hated the religion, the religion people, of how they were acting, or at least their behavior. I wouldn't say he
Exactly.
hated them, but their behavior, of
The
how they were treating
concept.
others.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like there's this weird distinction that was like it can be sometimes hard to get my head around because it's like sometimes I can look at the Bible and I'm like, dang, God can be cruel. Which is why I hold the position that he's neutral, but Christ in itself, like throughout his whole works, he's never once had that moment of cruelty, really. In
mm,
everything, he's been, for the most part, just love,
yeah,
just through
yeah,
and through. And that's something I admire so, so much. And it's
yeah.
something that I feel like it's just a weird thing to say out loud because I feel like a lot of Christians, if you were to say that, they'll be like, no, 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 impossible, impossible, impossible. I was like, no, it's not impossible. Just
Yeah.
based off like action, like look at it. You know what I mean? Because I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people they've been taught not to question God. But the thing is, how can you follow someone and not question them? You're just following them blindly. And to a
Yeah.
degree, I feel like that's the defilement of what faith is. I feel like for me, people have been taught to follow God blindly because that way religion can function as the industry that it is. If you follow God
Mm,
blindly, you follow the pastors blindly. You follow the
mm-hmm,
higher ups blindly. And so
mm-hmm,
when they say do this, you do it. When
mm-hmm,
they say hurt, you hurt. When they say give,
mm-hmm,
you give. When they say jump,
mm-hmm.
you jump. Because that's
Yeah.
what you've been taught. You do not question it. But you
Yes.
have to question it. You can't follow
Yeah.
something and not question it.